It is the first week on the job for interim President John Engler dealing with the Nassar scandal aftermath. A vote of no confidence from the faculty is probably on the way to the Board of Trustees very soon. Plus, Engler is already tangled with investigators and told Attorney General Bill Schuette he's no longer endorsing him for governor. Add to this the debate around how university trustees should be chosen and a push for a constitutional amendment to make them appointed by the governor. We still have a lot to sort through with Michigan State. And Stephen, you just rolled your eyes and gave a
it just gets worse every
what?
day. It just gets worse every day. I just feel like every decision that gets made or every statement that gets made, you're like, what are they thinking? Why is this happening at, you know, a prestigious R1 university that represents represents our state?
Let's go ahead first off and talk about John Engler this week and angry at investigators for what he contended was like a televised opportunity. Showboating, dog and pony show, whatever you want to call it. Do you think he was justified in that?
Of course he is. And what he recognizes the reality here that for a long time, none of these investigators, Bill Schuette included, couldn't find Michigan State University, wasn't interested in finding out what went wrong there. We didn't want to touch it. Then those girls stood up in court and testified and captured the nation's hearts and attention. And then they're all rushing in now with their cameras.
As they should be rushing in.
They should have been rushing in last fall when there were a lot of people screaming, what are you waiting for? And what Engler recognizes is there's a lot of opportunism here, and a lot of people are going to try to feather their own political ambitions by showing up at Michigan State demanding records.
And who are you referring to? Who are you referring to in that there, Nolan?
He called out Bill Schuette, and I think that's a fair call. I mean, what John Engler is not going to tolerate is somebody making hay off of this.
Could the Attorney General say, hey, this is a case that has not had transparency for a very long time, and I'm just trying to make it as transparent as possible?
Difference between transparency and grandstanding, and I think that's where John Engler wants to draw the line. He told everybody at MSU, when you're asked a question, be honest. Don't destroy any records, give the investigators what they want. But he wants an orderly process here. He doesn't want 20 opportunists here from the NCAA, from Congress, from the State House, from any number of other places, falling all over each other to be the ones that say, hey, I got it, you know?
Right move on Engler's part to say, yeah, by the way, I'm not going to endorse anybody in the governor's race, and pulling his endorsement from Bill Schuette.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's got to stay out of that if he's going to be in this role, and I think that goes a long way toward rehabilitating the very idea of him in that role, which I think still needs a lot of rehab and still needs a lot of discussion. But that was a grown-up thing to do, to say, I got to withdraw from, you know, this sort of political sphere that I'm used to dealing in. You know, whether that will be enough for the faculty at the university, I think remains to be seen, and I think they still have real legitimate questions about the process that was used here, about this board, and what their priorities are.
But he's got a couple of big jobs to do here that he's very well suited for. Perhaps the biggest job, he's got to keep that donor base intact. And you know, you saw a 25% drop off last fall in donors as this scandal started unfolding. That's a university president's main job, is raising money.
I would argue that it's not the main job, but
that's
part of the problem.
What they spend the bulk of their time doing at these universities. He's got to keep that donor base intact, and he's very well suited for that. But he's also got to manage through this lawsuit crisis and make sure the university doesn't destroy its credibility any further by attacking these girls. He's got some hard decisions to make about whether you fight these lawsuits or go into mediation.
Right.
'I'd say you have to go into mediation.
Gosh.
Oh yeah,
if they start to fight these lawsuits, their image is destroyed.
You've got to stop this effort to use statute of limitations to cut a lot of these girls off
he's still the wrong person for that job.
Let me ask you this. Let's talk about the Board of Trustees a little bit. And I thought that we'd maybe see some change from last week to this week, but they're all still intact. But what about this move to have some kind of constitutional amendment that would change the way that we choose them? That
we need to do that.
Gubernatorial, governor appointed.
You need to do that. Every other university, we've got 15 universities, 12 of them the governor appoints, and they seem to be doing a very good job.
Right.
You've got three
of them.
Depends
on which one you're talking about.
You've got Western, Grand Valley. I mean, you've got three of them where it's a political job and where they're beholden by special interests, to special interests.
But see, what's the difference between being elected into a political job and being appointed by politically elected person. I don't know that that gives you that distance.
Because today, if that MSU board had been appointed,
he
Snyder
could
remove every single one of them.
Well, that's true. You would have that level of accountability, but that doesn't stop. It seems to me that still imbues academia with this political stain. There may be better ways to think about.
Except those people owe their jobs to one person rather than 8 people owing their jobs to a lot of different people.
But it's still a politician. But there are many different ways.
It's not a mega donor. It's not a union.
So one of the problems
it's not the faculty.
One of the problems with this discussion, and this is a great big Michigan problem, right? Is we've set up a binary choice. It's either that they have to be elected or that they have to be appointed by the governor. And that's totally ignorant of the diversity of manners in which these boards are constituted across the country. There are lots of different ways that states approach this that are neither gubernatorial appointment nor election. And no one's talking about saying, hey, let's look at best practice. Let's look around and see what everyone else does and see who has success.
So you're saying that this is more of a knee-jerk reaction
to what's happening? It's a total knee-jerk reaction.
Well, it's not
and it's
going
the
to
way we
happen
deal with
anyway.
everything.
You're not going to get you're not going to get a 2/3 vote in the legislature to change the Constitution, and nobody's going to come up with the $8 to $10 million it'll take to do a ballot initiative. So this is what we're stuck with, and you know it's not the ideal situation, but it's what.
And I think we're going to have to see what happens with
the
Board of Trustees. If there's going to be some more heat put on them, if there's going to be some more heat put on. I am talking. We're going to have to see if there's going to be some more heat put on them, or if we see any resignations if the faculty does come out with a vote of no confidence. And hey, as things continue to turn around here, you never know what can happen.
Well, that's how you don't know.
You absolutely don't know. All right, we're going to